Welcome back to the 2017 Twin Cities Film Fest, hosted by the Shops at West End and the beautiful Showplace Icon Theater. We're here on our Florida Junk sponsored red carpet. I'm lucky enough to be your host tonight, Doug Sidney. It is day 11 of 11. It's closing night, and I'm not saying that we've saved the best for last because we've had some amazing programming from day one all the way up through to tonight. By the star, our star of Midsummer Night's Dream, and the director, the writer, the director, the producer, Rachael Leigh Cook. Everyone in Minnesota knows who you are. It's so great to have you here. Casey, your first time here. Thanks a million for joining us. Rachael, I'd love to start with you. You are the recipient of our North Star Award for Achievement in Film tonight. You're bringing your film here at the 2017 Twin Cities Film Fest. It's been 10 years since you've been back from other interviews that I've heard.
Yep.
It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Doug. That is entirely too long since I've been here. And I'm thrilled to be here with our director, Casey. This is an incredibly special, insanely beautiful movie. I cannot believe that it's this man's first film. And I'm just so excited to share it with my hometown.
It doesn't seem like it is, and we're definitely going to talk to you about that, Casey. Can you, Rachael, talk to your audience, all of your fans, about longevity in a career in this industry? Because you are as expert a person to talk to about that, the way that you've navigated your career since, I think, before the age of 10.
I am as old as the hills. Like, can we please phrase that a little bit differently?
You also don't age, so...
I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thank you so much. No,
yes.
Thank you. How do I talk about career longevity? Wow, I don't know. Hang in there. Be nice to people. Work hard. Never let a lack of talent stop you. Just everything people have always told me.
You can't comment on the lack of talent part, but talk. It must be because you love doing it, and you still do. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's the best. It's hard. 9 days out of 10, but that one day you get to work with guys like this and make an incredible movie. That's what you make of it.
We've been fans of your work since forever. Casey, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
you have brought a modern interpretation of Shakespeare's most reinterpreted work. You're setting it in modern day, and you're making special character reference and specific reference to Los Angeles, where the film takes place and where you shot it. Can you talk to us about biting off that huge challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Los Angeles, I want to kind of connect that question to what you and Rachael were just talking about, her career longevity. And I'm going to make you a little bit bashful here by saying this, but I think part of her career longevity comes down to, there's a lot of glib talk about Minnesota values or Midwestern upbringing or whatever, but Rachael really embodies that, and there are not a lot of people in Hollywood who arrive with that mentality or who were able to preserve that mentality through a very cutthroat industry, and that was one of the things that made working with her on this picture such a joy. So the film is Midsummer Night's Dream, reimagined as a Hollywood fairy tale. Rachael plays Hermia. She's kind of the crux of the whole story, and everyone that we were able to cast around her were, I think, equally really rich and compelling in their roles. And I'm very proud of the film, but more than anything else, I'm proud of the cast that we put together. I did a panel this morning with Steven and Kurt called Directing the Story. I actually told someone at one point, I said, directing's a made-up job, so don't take anything that we just said seriously. It's all just sort of made up. And I meant it, But one of the people on the panel said something that was very astute, which is that 90% of directing is casting, and if you end up with a great cast, people who are good actors and good people and they're right for the roles, there's really not a lot for you that's left as the director to do. So I was fortunate in that.
So well said, and again, such a tribute to you as well. Casey, you've used the term toiled in the industry for the better part of a decade, almost 12 years, as a creative, as a producer. This is, as Rachael alluded to, your first feature film.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, right out of the gate, putting the type of film that you did together. It highlighted the LA Film Fest. It's our closing night film here. Making that leap with the success that you have.
I got really lucky. I did have a couple of early champions who, putting a film together, like a lot of things, it's just a process of inertia. You try and get a couple pieces and then a couple more pieces and a couple more pieces. And after a certain point, it just it has its own momentum, and then you're trying to keep up with it. But those early victories, to anyone out there who's wondering, when we talked about this again this morning, how do I put a film together? How do I do this? Like, really focus on those early victories, those early partners who are going to be able to amplify your own abilities as a producer or director or whatever it is that you're doing, because no one can do it alone. It is a fundamentally collaborative medium, and that's one of the reasons that it's really thrilling and rewarding, but it's also one of the things that's really challenging about it. So, in the case of this film, a fellow actor of Rachel's named Fran Kranz, who's an old, really good friend of mine, was an early supporter of the script, and he and I basically cast it off of our iPhones. Most of the people, Rachel's, we're pals now, which is great, but she's kind of an exception in that most of the people in the film, either Fran or myself had a relationship with prior to shooting, so that made things move really quickly. And my other key collaborator was a film financier in London, who was a guy that I'd worked with professionally for a really long time, and had also developed a personal relationship with, a very close personal relationship. And they're both credited producers on the film, Fran Kranz and Josh Skurla, and I never could have made the film without them, and 100 other people, but those were kind of my key guys.
Such well-deserved plugs as well. There you go, you have fans.
Thanks.
And both of you do so many great fans. Sold out screening tonight, which is awesome. So, Rachael, talk to us about, you talked about how important casting is and what a huge component that is. You came on taking the lead character, Hermia, in this film, a great responsibility.
One of the leads. You're being a little bit too kind to me.
You deserve it. Talk to us about, you've made transitions between film and television back and forth. You've done a ton of voice work for games and things like that. You're taking on a classic piece of theater. Talk to us about approaching that.
Healthy degree of fear. It's so meta. I was pretty nervous when my agents called and said, so you want to do this Shakespeare movie? I was just like, I've barely done theater, right? I'm not positive this is a great idea. But my coach was really down to just dig in and teach me the ways, and I did the best I could. And Casey was really cool about saying, we're not going to be strict about the meter, we want this to be relatable. This is really a new spin on it. And who you are adds to the piece, and it's cool. So, we just sort of hope for the best. I don't know, man.
Well, Casey, you were so confident in your casting choice for a couple reasons. One, you're classically trained as a Shakespearean actor, and so you had a lot of comfortability. You're being modest as well. And so talk to us about that great understanding that you had coming into the project, but at the same time, too, you're taking it into a modern reinterpretation of it, and you really wanted the Los Angeles component and the industry component to tell the story.
Yeah. Well, one of the most memorable things about Midsummer Night's Dream is that there's a play within a play, and this was a feature that Shakespeare likes to play with a lot. And it felt like that was kind of a starting point, right? If we have a play within a play, you're necessarily commenting, you're using theater to comment on theater inside of theater, talk about meta. And I've always been drawn to movies that do that, Charlie Kaufman movies, a lot of the French New Wave films, and I wanted to find a way to kind of combine that tradition with the Shakespearean tradition, which is something I think Shakespeare, if he were alive today, he probably would have been a screenwriter, he made popular entertainment for his era, and I think if you look at, the films of Ken Branagh, for instance, he's obviously kind of a master filmmaker and a real kind of expert when it comes to the Shakespearean tradition. He understands this, he knows that you can use the medium to comment on itself, but you also, and this is another thing I kind of cribbed from Ken Branagh and obviously Baz Luhrmann, you want it to be inviting, I really believe that I was lucky in that I was introduced to Shakespeare in a very accommodating way when I was really young. It was never kind of put to me as this arcane, esoteric, inaccessible thing. And so it's something I've had a relationship with my whole life, and that's brought me a lot of happiness, and it brought this into my life. So I want to do whatever I can, my small part to contribute to that tradition,
When you had thoughts and visions during your work as a producer and a creative that you were going to take a directorial helm, was this always in the back of your mind as what was going to happen, what you really wanted to do?
That's a great question, and the answer is no, actually.
Okay.
It was, I can't explain it, but for whatever reason, when I was at the point in my life, my kind of personal development as well as career growth, where it just felt like it was time to take this leap of faith. Maybe related, but seemingly unrelated. I was starting to rediscover Shakespeare, and I reread a lot of the plays, and I had other ideas about like, oh, I'm going to do King Lear in Las Vegas, or I'm going to do Hamlet as a vampire western, kind of more genre-driven, like kooky ideas. But the more I thought about it, I always come back to Midsummer Night's Dream. I love the play. I've been in the play 3 times. I can't tell you how many times I've read it. I love the play. I love the magical, whimsical quality of it. And it's a comedy, right? And it's a farce, but it's a really sophisticated play too. There's a lot going on in terms of the characters, in terms of the themes, in terms of the plots and subplots. And so it felt like something that was going to be challenging and stimulating to tackle.
Yes. We need to get you into your screening, but it's been such a pleasure having you up here on our Florida Junk sponsored red carpet. It is. You've got a sold out screening tonight. Rachael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Doug.
Casey, thank you both so much. We're going to hang out here. We're going to get lucky enough to grab some photos. We've been here on the 2017 Twin Cities Film Fest, hosted by the Shops at West End, in front of Midsummer Night's Dream. Go in and see it. You're going to enjoy it. And she's our Minnesota Rachael Leigh Cook. We'll be back. Thank you.